Welcome to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm speaking to you from New York City on the 25th day of September 2018. I do like to remind you each week that I am the editor of Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks, Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks, and you can subscribe to that letter by going to miningstocks.com. I'd like you to consider checking out Chen Lin's work as well, and Chen will be a guest with us during the second segment of today's show. ChenPicks.com. ChenPicks.com is the place to go. Chen has some very interesting ideas that he'll share with you in a little while about in the biotech sector, and he's got an energy stock or two and a gold stock or two that, if time permitting, he'll be running by you as well. Do want to thank you for listening to this show, making it one of the more popular shows in the Voice America Business Channel, and also want to thank you for sending along your questions and comments to questionsfortaylor@gmail.com, questions number four, questions for Taylor@gmail.com. We do want to thank our sponsors because they make this show economically possible. RN Resources, Genesis Metals Corp., Great Bear Resources, Novo Resources, and Sandstorm Gold Corp., Sandstorm Gold Limited, are the sponsors for this week's show. I've titled today's show, An American Decline is Not an Apocalypse. Alistair MacLeod, Michael Oliver, Chen Lin, our return guest this week. Apocalyptic thinking and prepping is common among some libertarians, while complete annihilation is always a possibility given humankind's self-destructive nature. Overreaction may also be a form of self-destruction. Certainly, we are on the verge of some major adverse changes, in my view, at least in America. And from what I can see, the very negative direction for America is being caused by an underlying economic and moral depravity promoted not by Russia or Iran or China, but rather from an enemy within. As Cicero wrote back in 58 BC, and I quote, "A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face and their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep within the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague." End of quotes. Well, given the false accusations being made, I believe false accusations being made against the Trump administration with regard to Russia, more recently the president's Supreme Court candidates, most likely, seeming to me, false allegations being made there as well, and untimely, just American people who voted, really, I think these are crimes against the system itself because, after all, Donald Trump, like him or not, was elected by the people. So essentially, the people that are looking to undermine Trump are underlying the people that voted for him. What this tries to do is to alert our listeners to impending economic, moral, and spiritual issues so that we can be as prepared as possible to face the dark days that might lie ahead. While we want to prepare for the worst, as I just noted, overreaction can also be destructive, and my main guest, Alistair MacLeod, thinks that we might be better served to consider more likely, less drastic outcomes in our lives, not if, but when the American empire bites the dust or at least heads into a decline. I'm looking forward to hear what Alistair has to say from a recent article that he recently wrote titled, An American Decline is Not an Apocalypse. In just a few minutes after the break, as I mentioned, Chen Lin will be with me to talk about some of his favorite picks. He is just returning very shortly from the Denver Gold Show, where we'll be speaking to him from. But right now, I'm really happy to have Michael Oliver with me for something special today. And I might just mention, as I always like to do before we say hello to Michael, go to olivermsa.com, olivermsa.com, olivermsa.com to check in to Michael's work. Thanks for joining me, Michael.
Hi, Jay. Good to be back.
It's really good to be back, and especially good to be back today because you have a new product that I think is especially designed for many of the people that listen to this show. Because many of the people that listen to this show, if not most of them, are interested in gold and gold mining. They are not all that convinced that the dollar and fiat currencies are the best kind of system, and so they're looking for ways to protect themselves against the carnage that many of us believe lies ahead. That takes them to gold and silver in various forms. So I'm really pleased to know that you've designed a product that is a newsletter, a very well-priced newsletter, very affordable newsletter for people like me who are really gold bugs, who really care a lot about the gold market. So tell us about your new service, Michael.
Well, it's far cheaper than our standard one, which is primarily for institutional and high net worth investors. So it's not a normal retail price for that. But the gold, silver, and mining letter, which is what we call our new report, we started it a few weeks ago. We'll focus on those markets. So on one, that's area of asset category, rather than all four major asset categories. Mm-hmm. I think it's a particularly the timing of this is important because I think gold is at the inflection point to head back up. And this time I think it heads back up for an entire new up leg from this recent several-year congestion zone, which most of which has been well above the low, which occurred in late 2015 at 1050. And I think it's ready to go, and I think that what we're trying to provide is our own unique technical analysis. It's not simple price bar chart analysis. You can get that anywhere. But it's the momentum structure of intermediate and long-term trends of gold, silver. We even ran platinum last week, which is in a unique situation right now. And we also closely watch the gold miners, including relative performance of the gold miners, meaning you don't just which ones do you want to own, which ones are performing better than others within the category. So that's what we do. We do it constantly, and it's technical, and it's our own unique technical work. So we're hoping to become, in this next great bull market in gold, a well-known gold technical letter. There are many very solid fundamental research reports out there, including your own, that provide information on gold miners, and so forth from a fundamental point of view. But we want to become the prime technical gold report. And so if somebody would like a sample, just go to our site. There's a box for samples. Request it. You'll get some samples.
That's great. I mean, that's really good. And Michael, I'm looking at the report you put out on September 23rd. It looks, I might just mention to my listeners that it's very easy to understand what Michael's doing. He shows you pictures, and you don't have to really understand the technical analysis in depth as Michael does, but he sort of just lays it out for you and tells you what are important price levels at a given point in time. For example, I'm looking right now, Michael, at your September 23rd report, and maybe you just talk about that, because as I look at the momentum chart that lies below the price chart, it looks to me like we've kind of broken out above a resistance level there.
It has. When you break down into an intermediate trend, such as measuring price versus a 10-week average, or price oscillated against a 3-month average, those type of time scales, not annual, not looking out way long term, but looking for the terms. Gold has already done enough goods for itself technically, forget the price charts, I'm talking momentum now, to indicate that recovery is underway. This week we expected to be a dull week in many markets, including the precious metals. So far it's been fairly dull. The other two markets we're watching for affirmation of gold upturn is across silver and the GDX, the gold mining ETF. And they're behaving stronger than gold this week, and they're pushing toward what we define as, and these numbers change week by week, but what we define as the beginning of recovery numbers. And I think it's underway. And once I see the silver and the GDX join with gold, I think we'll just sit back and watch the recovery unfold. There's going to be layers of resistance on the way up. Gold's not just going to go back up into the mid-1300s and blow through the horizontal resistance of the last few years up there. There'll be layers on the way up that it'll have to deal with. One of them we think is around 1260. But to get the process going is all we're concerned about, and I think we're on the cusp of that. I think October will exhibit that, and we'll be able to measure it and put some numbers on it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is very clear the momentum is a different picture most of the time than the price charts. And the price charts is what most people are seeing. And that momentum, that's what everybody sees in the momentum work, and it's your momentum, it's your proprietary momentum work. And that allows you to see, have a sense of the undertow of the market, like what is really going on as opposed to what appears to be going on more superficially in the price, I would say. So I really, I've become very confident with your work, Michael, and the constant updating of it, which is very helpful. It's very reasonably priced. What is it? Is $299 a year?
$299 a year.
And you'll be sending out,
but $299 a year.
Well, I wouldn't expect $2.99. You can't sneeze for that anymore. But okay, so you'll be sending out reports, I suppose. How often do you think? More or less?
We guarantee 7 to 10 a month, but it's more likely you'll see more than that. In fact, we've put out 3 reports just in the last week. So in general, at least 2 a week probably, but often more. The weekend will always be a weekend report, but then we put out reports and we see something that needs to be addressed. And for example, we included platinum last week because platinum has made new lows. And one of our comments was, all these people talking about gold making new lows, why didn't it simply go down with platinum and make a new low, which platinum did recently? The problem with platinum is that when it made the new low, it grossly non-confirmed on long-term momentum and is now trying to flip back up, and it won't take too much flip up in platinum to turn it totally around, and probably in a slingshot manner. So even that worst performing of the precious metals looks like it's making a turn now.
All right, so we're the precious metals looks very promising to you, and that's part of your thinking for starting this new product, this new newsletter. And I'm very grateful that you're doing that, Michael, because I think it will allow a lot of my listeners to subscribe where they might not be able to pay the higher price. It's OliverMSA.com, OliverMSA.com. With just a minute left to go, Michael, just a quick comment perhaps on the equity markets right now.
Yeah, I think they're behaving much like they did in, we've said this months ago, in fact. I saw a report echoing this in the financial press the other day, much like the 2000 top and the 2007 top, where you had a high early in the year, a sharp retreat, and then a secondary high later in the year that came back up to the highs or made a marginal new high. We're behaving much like that, and momentum indicates that the market effectively is out of gas. Also, note that the, quote, new highs we just made, NASDAQ 100 did not make a new high. PNQI, the ETF of the leadership stocks, did not even approach its highs. Their relative performance, the leadership, where the leadership is focused, the FANG stocks and so forth, they're not leading anymore. Nobody's commenting on that, or not many, and I think it's very important. The leaders are wounded, and so that's an internal indication, I think, that the market is, in fact, arduously, is the term we use, topping.
All right. Well, we'll have to leave it go at that. Michael, thank you so much for being with us again, and we'll look to do it again next week, hopefully.
Thank you, Jay.